Hello, my name is Jason. I am a user researcher. I'm currently working with DWP at the minute, and this is my talk on building UX culture. You can tweet me nice things at Agile Time Lord, or I normally share little means I can't share my business account at Jason Cabell. Hello. Hi. Right, let's get on with it. So, once again, hello, I'm Jason. I'm a user researcher. My shtick is that I play with pop culture and user research because I find it helps people understand complex things really easily. And I'm kind of like a paranoid Columbo with just one more question. In the past, I've compared how WWE's Royal Rumble is the best onboarding of any product or service in the past, how the Treacle People, an oft-maligned 90s stop-motion animation based in the north, but also mining treacle instead of oil or coal, is one of the best ways to interpret middle management, and how Power Rangers represent the best multidisciplinary teams around at the moment. Yes, look at them dancing, even the white one, because he's cool. Right, so here we go with building UX culture and why this is even a problem. So the alternative title to this is A Stream of Consciousness from an Angry User Researcher that likes pop culture references, 2020 edition. Why this is a special 2020 edition is because my son, who is 9 months old, has been up since 4 o'clock. Therefore, I've been up since 4 o'clock. Get in. Right, off we go. If you don't agree with this, I understand that. I welcome comments and I'm happy for you to talk to me. But yeah, let's just get on with what we've got. First off, we've got to understand why this entire thing is important. Why do you need a UX culture? Why is it even something that people need to think about? Well, there is a boring sciencey bit of why we should strive to have UX culture and why we should put users at the heart of everything we build. And it's because it saves a lot of money. If we build once and build it right, see what I did there? It saves us money, time, effort, and we have delighting customers. A recent, well, not that recent, it's 2012 survey argued that about 5 trillion is spent on building IT products in the US. It's the best figure I could find. However, what is built on that, about 30% is rebuild. So if we could avoid that, that would be great. So can we avoid that? And how do we do that? There are many reasons. Oh, there we go. There are many reasons that we should do the thing. We build the thing the right way if we have users at the heart of it. We build teams in a positive way at the heart of it. And we have positive culture. I'm going to build into a lot of culture soon. I apologize for nothing on this. It saves time, we save money, we don't annoy people, and it's delivering value. Right. But before we begin, what is culture? And why am I even a person that can talk about what culture is and why it's important? Well, if you look at that young Jason there in 2012, before the plague, before working in technology, he was working on a master's on understanding the importance of politics and culture and understanding what culture is at its core. And I've learned a lot of things, and I've learned what shouldn't be done and what should be done. So let's start off with what culture certainly isn't. I am very sorry for using Comic Sans. I think it's the first time I've ever used Comic Sans in a side deck. But at the same time, you'll see why. Comic Sans isn't culture. This is not culture. Sharing memes that are pointless, awful, and grim is not culture. It's not user-centered. Just because you have a message presented in a fun, twee way does not mean it's any good, or it's of any value, or any worth. Also, that meme is incorrect. A balanced diet is chocolate in both hands. Number 1, it's a cupcake. Number 2, he's got cupcake in one hand. It doesn't make sense. Racist minion memes are for Karens online. They're not for people working in tech. Awful stuff like this. You don't have to be crazy to work here, but it sure does help. Nope, I don't want crazy people working. Nope, I don't care. You're a typical. I do not want this kind of twee bullshit in my work. My job. I don't want to be encouraged to have forced culture. Do not do this to me, please. Link to this. This is a tweet from one of my friends, and I still think it plays true. So Scribbly in Pain looks like the overdressed finance assistant who still shouts, "Way!" when someone drops the glass at all bar one. Yep, this isn't culture. To strive for a drinking culture, that's not culture. That's a problem. If you're a company that supports beer o'clock beers, that's good for you. But don't force people to do it. It's not something everyone enjoys. If your culture is alcohol, you haven't got a culture. You've got a problem, and it's likely with someone at the top. Don't force it. Just let people decide what the culture is. Workplace culture is the result of values and actions. It's within and around the workplace. How we interact, treat, and perceive users and colleagues seeps out, impacting everything it touches. The reason a lot of people don't like Facebook is because of the culture that it gives off. It comes across as skeezy. If you work, you can sometimes ascertain what the culture of the workplace is by the product that it produces. This is why it's important. We need to have positive culture across everything. Culture is infectious. It goes between different people. It transmits from individuals, from left to right, up, down. It goes everywhere. From a grassroots culture to a top down, it goes everywhere. And you can't underestimate the power of an idea. If something comes in your organization, it's very difficult to pull out of it. If you look at America right now, Trumpism is here to stay. We're screwed with that. That's going to be here for a long, long time to come. We can't get through it. And to show you the importance of an idea, I've heard of an idea about when I was 12, so 20 years ago, and it stayed with me to today because it's that insidious. And I'm going to share it with you now. I'm sorry, but I know this, so you have to know it too. So when we die, we are told that we have to go towards the light. But what if the light is a trick? Oh. See, you're never going to think about that the same way again. It's creepy, it's weird, and I'm sorry, but culture's infectious. We've got to treat it with respect, and we have to be careful of the ideas we cultivate within our organizations. So I was supposed to play this video during this, but I found out that this talk's being recorded. So for copyright reasons, I'm not going to, and that's why I've put this little thing in for me. So we're going to visit this scene from 1982, The Thing, the best horror film ever made, with pictures. So for those unaware, The Thing is a classic Lovecraftian horror where an alien can shapeshift between different organisms, take them on, and then kill its host. So let's look at this cell intruder as bad culture, this as two unsuspecting devs, and then what happens is the bad idea, the bad culture takes over, and then you can't tell what it is anymore, and it seeps across the entire organisation. Within the concept of the film, we have found out that it takes about 27,000 hours from first contact to complete domination of the entire thing. That's not good. So for those who are interested in the maths behind this, 27,000 hours is 1,125 days, 37 months, and just over 3 years from an entire world being wiped out. Your organization is as big as the world. And if you have a bad culture going between your organization, it's going to take a lot less than 3 years for your organization to be absolutely destroyed from the inside out. So now that I think I've stressed the point of this, of why culture is infectious and it shapes the way we build products and services, and why this thing is important, let's think about what actually happens day to day. We should be fine though, because we've got Agile, because we move fast, break things, and we work together to build and deliver value for users. Look, this is Agile, isn't it? Post-its, beer fridges, Jira, beanbags, people who look like me with like long hair, beards, and scraggy t-shirts. We don't wear suits. We're fine. We're building for the users. We're user-centered. We're going with good design. That's what we're doing, right? Yeah, because move fast and break things really works for a lot of people, doesn't it? I mean, look at this awful, awful, awful human being. That haunted man used to move fast and break things, and then he broke democracy. So maybe we should be careful with why we move fast and break things, because moving fast and break things isn't always the answer. We shouldn't always go in to disrupt things. I think a lot of people are misunderstand Agile as moving fast, delivering, asking for forgiveness, putting up permission. That's not always the right thing. Don't move fast and break things if it's not right for your user. So if we go back from the next level down, we have to understand what Agile is from its core. What is Agile? So it's a manifesto for Agile software development. Let's go through here. I'm sure many of you have seen this in the past. So individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration, over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. I can screenshot. You've all seen this before. This is how we should build software, right? So the next logical conclusion is Agile is user-centered design. So what's the problem? Where is this disconnect coming from where we aren't putting the users at the core of the team? What is making this happen? It's potentially an implementation. So say you have a new team that worked in waterfall and then move into agile. How do you then move? Well, say you need some help. You have to vet everyone properly and let the right ones in. Well, what happens if you don't? You let in vampires. And by vampires, I mean bad consultants. People who don't actually understand the problem and will just come in to make some money because you need to spend some money by the end of the quarter. Differences and similarities between vampires and bad faith consultancies, they must be invited in. Makes sense. They talk in riddles. Yes, they do. They seduce with promises of riches and gold. Yep. Predatory in nature. I think we can all agree with that. Nesting creatures, because once you get them in, they're really difficult to get them out. And yes, they are blood-sucking parasites. And also, just to be clear to those in the audience, these are bad faith consultancies. I'm not saying all consultancies are bad. I'm meaning some that I've had experience with. Some consultancies are great. And you end up with solutions like this. We've got the perfect solution for your small business. Yes, we sold the same system to a bank. Yep, so they'll come up with a solution that they've already pre-made, pre-packaged, heat it up in the oven, and then try to sell it to you. And you end up in your small organization with something like the product development dodecahedron, because everybody loves shapes, agile terms, and things that people can put on a wall. Or something just as awful as something like SAFe. So you end up in a labyrinth. You don't actually know what you're doing. You have awful weird ceremonies to now attend. You have things that you don't understand before. Everything's kind of messed up. You aren't actually going towards any guiding light. You're just walking randomly and just doing things, but not actually sure of the value or what's actually going on. You end up feeling bricked in. Case aside, since discovering you children's TV, now that I've got a 9-month-old, Thomas is really bleak. Henry just didn't want to get wet, and they bricked him up. Not good. Okay, so does this sound familiar to you? I hope it does. At the same time, I hope it doesn't, because I've experienced this in a few organizations, and how do we actually stop it? And people normally just say, oh, we add some UX to it. And adding UX isn't the quick fix it is sometimes sold as. Just slapping UX on it isn't the answer, because what even is UX? And how it's applied is just, it depends on what actually happens to see if it works. So I've been in this meeting many times of, we're building a brand new thing. We know exactly what we need to build, but we've been told to do some UX. Go do it so we can tick a box. No, that's the wrong approach. That's nope. It reminds me of the scene from Office Space. But yeah, if you could just go ahead and do some good UX, that'd be great. You're not actually engaging with the problems. It's just to tick a box. UX is not a box ticking exercise. Or you can have the user research team or the interaction design team who do not help themselves. So if we haven't done a full 6-month study, personas, ethnography, card sorting, A/B testing, and some pop-up, I'm sorry, we just can't change the color of this button. No. There is another way. You don't have to conduct comprehensive quantitative and qualitative research for every change. Test things as you go. Build. Work together. And we don't have time to test. We need to launch by Q3. The board have mandated this. So the board would rather have a crappy product launched instead of testing it because reasons. Over time, things like this can fester and grow, and it turns negative, and it becomes almost an antagonistic relationship between the UX part of the team and the product part of the team. And you end up with the meetings hearing like, oh, I think we need to think about how this impacts the users. You actually need embedded across the entire development. Yes, it should, but you shouldn't have an audible sigh when people say that. You should work together to build things for users. Because we're always told at the start there'll be collaboration, but halfway through the product, we find out that the scope has been altered, and we should pray that it's not altered further. This is a common occurrence that I've found across many teams, where the UX team come up with what their priorities should be, speak to the user to find out what needs to be built, but a delivery manager or a scrum master has already prioritized the backlog, and they are building what they're building without any input. How is this avoided? How can we get past this? But before I give you my tips to get past this, we are going to go dark once again with some of the worst things I've heard in meetings. I apologize to those who've heard these before, but they are evergreen in how awful they are. We asked our users what they wanted, and they got angry with us. It's pointless speaking to them. Why did they get angry with you? Is it because you didn't listen and you never give them what they ask for, or you don't engage with them? Don't be like this. I'm not sure what we can achieve in speaking to end users. Who are you building the product or service for? Who do you think? Why are you doing? Why do you have a job? What is the point of what you're doing? Like, there. And of course, my favorite and most awful one, it's not our fault that our users are too thick to figure out how our system works. Yes, it is. Yes, it is your fault. Yes, it is your fault. So, how do we solve it? With a listicle. 10 tips to build UX culture, because everybody loves a list. Number 1, assess the foundations. Look, here's Kate Nash eating lemons because she wrote that song Foundations about 10 years ago. Understand the real politic within an area. Find out what's actually going on with the organization. We don't live in bubbles built on books. There is no mythical product or service that is exactly how it was built or designed within a book or a class. Understand the current machinations within an organization. Learn what goes through. To do that, you're going to have to do some research into the actual company itself, but also the teams, the people in the organization. You often find out you end up with a conversation like this. If you want to book a meeting in, you find out that you need to speak to Chris, but that's above your pay grade. To do so, you need to get your manager to speak to Jill. Then Jill will speak to their aide, and then we might be able to get some time in the next quarter. No, this might infuriate and disgust you, but to begin with, we have to understand the politics within an organization so we can break them down. Understand the enemy before you attack it. Gantt. Find out how your organization works. Some people praise a Gantt chart. If that's them, find out why they use it and why they're using it for and what they use it for. Find out before you just slag off a Gantt chart. Find out why they're using the systems and processes they're using before you interrogate them. Then reject the false gods. Once you find out what works, what they're using, why they're using it, then question it. Find out what you need to do to twist it and make it a more user-centered culture. Number 2, define your intent. So we all love to build products users love, #disrupt. What does that even mean? Like, that's an empty, vapid statement that you can put on the side of a bus. What does that actually mean? So to do that, you've got to understand what the company and the service or the product actually does. What do you say you actually do here? Come up with an actual point for your product or service to exist, and then you can build and develop from it. Case in point, if we were to look at, say, I don't know, the emperor or the empire's product or statement, it should be to maintain balance, justice, peace, and prosperity. We remain ever vigilant, protecting legal freedoms and property. It doesn't say anything about blowing up planets, but it's kind of what they do, but they're saying they're doing it through there. Define what it is. And then once you define your intent, what you do is your product or service to help people solve a particular problem. Is it to help people learn something? Find out what it is. And then once you've defined that, you should have some users, and you should go speak to your users. Speak to them. Find out what motivates them. Find what you are wanting to do. Find out what they're trying to do and meet in the middle. Work with it. Speak to your users every day. And then have UX people in the ceremonies so they can help influence people, so they can be part of everything, be together as one team. Number 3, identify your stakeholders, internal and external. So you've got to go and find out who your users are, find out who your stakeholders are, and to do that, you need to do some deep digging. Speak to sales teams, speak to marketing teams, speak to support teams, speak to product teams, speak to investors. Find out who's using your service, find out who you want to use your service, and also find out who's impacted by your service. So Case in point, if you're building a service for academics, are you building a service for the academic, or are you building it for the student? But do you care, if you're building it for the academic, do you care what the student thinks? Vice versa. If you're building for the student, do you care what the academics think? Find out. Also remember your team as stakeholders too. Don't be a blocker. Don't be an unnecessary blocker when you can act that brings the entire team down. Work together to find out what you can do. Remember that this team are actively interested in the work that you're doing. So bring them along with you. Remember that they want to see progress in the project. They don't want to become jaded and bored. Champion inclusivity. Everyone should be involved with everything at all points if they're interested, but make sure that everyone can see what the work's going on. Everyone should be involved every time that they can. And also another personal bugbear, do it with people. Don't do it with resources, because resources are not people. Resources is paper. Resources is staples. Resources is computers. Resources is not a person. I am not a resource, although I have been referred to as a very useful resource in the past, and I came away feeling dejected, objectified, not good. Next point, hippo hunting. So for those unaware, HIPPO is a health acronym for highest paid person in the room's opinion. So you've got to find out what actually the hippos want. Find out who the actual decision makers are and find out what motivates them. What you have to do is directly engage with them one-to-one. Find out what they want to do. Find out what their vision is. Or if they don't particularly have a vision, find out what motivates them. What motivates your decision makers? Is it they want you to make a lot of money? Is it they're wanting acclaim? Do they want to just do good for the users? Do they want awards? Do they want to be nominated for such awards? Find out what it is and then find out a way for you to get to them where you want to get to. Because you've got to influence the influencers. If you can influence the influencers, you can help build a product and service that actually matters to users. But everyone's got to be on board with it. Next point, everybody goes out to do user research. I don't care if you're a crotchety old developer who's in the same job for 30 years, you know exactly what the problem is and what you need to build. You're coming out with me to do user research. Everybody does user research, because user research, and I cannot stress this enough, is a team sport. And because I've added that, I cannot stress this enough. It means this is now mine. Thank you, GDS. Everyone thinks they know what's going on with the users. They think themselves and sign themselves. But what you need to do is go out, bring people in, and take people out with you to user research. When somebody sees that there's a bug or a problem in a test, they have a human connection to it. Instead of just being a bug, it becomes a problem that they relate to a person. If they see that Bill is having a bad time logging onto your page, you don't just think, oh, well, it doesn't work for 5% of people. They see Bill in their process and they build to help them get their work done. Because we are all stronger as a team. It makes sense. Go out, do the user research together, do the testing together. It just helps people. On the flip side of that, bring your users in-house. Now, for those who are aware of it, Jeff Bezos, everybody's favorite soon-to-be Bond villain, has an empty chair in staff meetings, which is supposed to be the chair of the user. Now, whilst that's a really, really strong metaphor, what you could do is fill the chair and actually have your users brought in-house, because what's better way of showing your users what you're doing than bringing them in, testing with them? Do this repeatedly. And you might have some kickback, such as this conversation, which I've just potentially reimagined, but it's a conversation that more or less definitely happened, where we were speaking to a manager and like, oh, you know when you said you're going to bring users in, you were joking, right? No, bring your users in. Get them to sit with the teams, get them to sit with executives, get them to sit with people so people understand the actual problems and motivations and intents. Yes, they'll see what you actually do, but that's good. That's the point. Yeah, that's what you need to do. I can't stress this enough. They should be seeing what you're doing. Be open in your culture. Work together. Show off all your work. So, one thing that I've found, the best ways to encourage people and motivate teams is to show all your work, show all your working out. If you've got a user research wall, if you've got a product wall, put all your user research on there. Show everything off, because if you don't, you're gatekeeping it. You're stopping people understanding what's going through. Share your thought processes. Share your thought processes. share your working out, share your understanding, because you need to share across so everyone's on the same page. Make it colourful, throw some stuff on the wall, make everything work and come together. Tell a journey and a narrative, put an entire journey on a wall and show where users sit on it, so people can see what you're doing. People will stop by, look at it, creep on it, and understand what's going on. If we're in the virtual environment at the moment, put everything in Slack or Skype or Teams, show people, guide people through it, share screens, show people what's going on. You shouldn't be embarrassed of what you've made. You should always build together to build it right. Again. This is beautiful. I mean, it's probably very difficult to read, but make everything come together. Be creative. Even lame little stick people help engage and tell stories. These slides I've found work better telling stories with research on data and APIs than they do for other things, because I don't have a UI to work with. I have to think in different ways. Have your massive board brought out. Show people. Be the person someone comes to when they want to learn things. Be open, be there, and show what you've done. Develop a shared language. So UX can be difficult, and explaining concepts can be hard for some people to grasp. So you need to come up with anchors. You need to find things that people can relate to and people are towards. What can you do to get there? Well, personally, I like creating interactive personas. So we've got 3 of these here. I've taken out some of the business that I have identifying information for what services they're from. But as we can see, we've got Randall Poffo, Karen Needles, Guinevere Beck. Yep, that's Randy Savage, mock drag queen name, and Beck from You. All these personas have been built on real people, and they're built with the team together in a collaborative way. These people in teams that I work with know who these people are and who they represent, and then we can refer to them in meetings and say, and development and stand-up to show, oh, we're building for X user, or we're building for Randall Poffo this week, or we're solving the problems of all 3, because you all know the same things together. It should link together. And you have your own special language within your own teams, because you should all know what's going on. Next one, building a culture of trust. This is very important, and I am going to go on a slight tangent on this, but here we go. Smug people are the worst. Their entire demeanor is, I know better than you, so I'm not going to listen. This is not good. This is not what you want to strive for. You want to have a team that isn't smug. Smug is the opposite of open, inquisitive, and humble. You want teams like that. I'm just going to share with you some people who are smug and some people who aren't. Stephen Mulhern, Ruth Lansford, Jeremy Kyle, and the creator of Red Receipts. These people are all smug people, and I don't like any of them. Do many people like any of them? I don't know. But their entire demeanor is smug and not very good. What should you be like instead? You should be more The Rock. Look at that bastion mountain of a man. What do I mean by being The Rock? You've got to be humble, work hard, approachable, dedicate yourself, give 100%, take work seriously, don't take yourself too seriously, make people feel important, take the time to speak to people, and enjoy snacks. The Rock is seen as this powerful person because he embodies positive trust among different people. People trust people like that. And also, look at that. He like, follow him on Instagram if you don't already, but I mean, just look at him devouring that pizza, that sushi, he eats everything. Would you rather be Stephen Mulhern, or would you rather be a man who jumps into a pool to save dogs? Build a culture of trust. Be more like The Rock. And one of my final points for the list is empathy. Just have some empathy with your users. Find out what their problems are. Find out what motivates them. Find out what upsets them. And then bring that in. If you remember from a couple of years ago, this is when the entirety of Hawaii thought that they were going to be nuked. And it became a curio. And a lot of people were just kind of see us like a laughing embarrassment. Like it would be something you'd see on like Google's Year in Review or Big Fat Quiz of the Year. Like, oh, this is something that happened. But for those people who got that information, how do you think they felt? How do you think the empathy worked with those people? It wasn't there. How do we actually help people understand other people? And the way to do that is just bring them in and speak to them, find out what motivates them. So what should you do? A long-promised quality of life feature? Or marketing has a hunch, so you should do that. What do you think would add the most value or trust to your teams and services? What would help? You've got to shift the focus from internal politics to problem solving for real people. And if you do that, that will help the politics and internal teams. That's what we need to do. So to do that, you've got to speak to your users, celebrate them. Everybody does user research. Engage with real problems, test everything, work together to solve real problems. And then iterate on that process. Find out what works for your team. So it doesn't matter the way that you work. Well, it does. It doesn't matter if you work Kanban, Scrum, or that Spotify tribe thing that everyone seems to read on summer vacation. Find out what works and then build on it. That's what you need to do. So to sum up, that's that then. Be curious, think critically, and don't be a dick. That's the core of what this is. A UX culture is putting the user at the heart of the product, bring them in as part of the team. Don't look down on them, don't think negatively of them, engage with them and go to them. That's what you should do. And by doing that, that will have positive outlooks on the rest of your team and their entire culture. And that's me, and that's a record for the amount of slides I went through and the amount of time. So yeah, as discussed before, you can find more about me on jasonmcbell.com or jasondoesux.com, although it does look like jasondoesucks.com. I did look to find some Jason Does to see if they really do suck, but they just seem to be nice people that work in IT management in the US. And yeah, you can tweet nice things at me at Agile Time Lord and Jason McBell. But I think that's me. So thank you very much. And I will just put myself on mute for a second. And I think that's it, unless anyone has any questions. And I'm finding out how Hopin works, and nope, got no real questions. But yeah, just thank yous. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope this rant wasn't too much vitriol for 10 o'clock on a Thursday morning. Oh, okay. Sharing user research in remote is if you've got the tools, have people on sessions with you. So use stuff like Zoom or Slack to have people in on calls. Sharing outputs, I primarily have decks that you can't read. You've got to have decks that you've got people to walk through, and you have large sessions where you take people through them. So case in point with my current team, when we go out to do user research together, we then go back and have a pre-meeting, we have the actual meeting, we have a wash-up. We have wash-ups in open environments so anyone can join in to find out what actually happened. Then the outputs, we all share together. But it's primarily using different tools that help collaboration. That's the main thing we go through it. Also encouraging show and tells. So for every show and tell, you have a user research bit where you guide people through. I also have a user research folder that people can go to, but the folder is held within the actual product side so people can go and see it. And it's just being, without being negative, it's being a nag and just getting people into it. But yeah, that's how we do it remotely. And that looks, I'm aware it's a rambling answer, but as discussed, 3 hours sleep. Okay, and if that's it.